My name is Philip Boardman. Today's date is January 14th, 2002. The cameraman is Brian Holmes, and we're going to be interviewing Herbert Bambury. You entered the Army in February 1943. Did you enlist when you entered?
Yeah.
Okay. It says here that you had about a 10th grade education at the time that you entered service.
Yes, second year high school.
Does this mean you quit school to join the military? Or?
Well, yeah, either join or you were going to go anyway. In those days, you know.
Okay. So you were of legal age to get in? You were happy to
yes.
get in? Oh.
18.
All right. What did you train for and where?
In the Army?
Yeah, in the Army.
Well, I was trained in Camp Jordan first, down in Georgia. Then we cross-trained us. They sent us over to Daniel Field. That was the Air Force. They sent us over there for training. And then from there, we went right to New York, got on the ship, and left.
What did they train you for in the Air Force?
In the Air Force?
Yeah, what was your...
Well, mostly we're going to be, what do you call them? Now that's about it. What would you call it? Look over maps and stuff like that, you know, that's what they were doing.
Was it easy? Was the training fairly easy? Or
Yeah, it wasn't too bad, no. The Army part that was rough. At Camp Gordon. But the Air Force, that wasn't bad at all.
Where did you arrive in the Allied land, control land?
When?
Where did you?
When we left New York?
Yes.
Scotland.
Scotland?
Yeah. They had to take they used to take a zigzag route on account of the submarines. German submarines was always on the lookout for ships.
It says you were a rifleman. Does that mean you were a regular infantryman, or was it more of a specialty?
Yeah. That's what I trained at Camp Gordon for.
When you landed, what was it like?
Well, it was a lot like this country here, and a lot like the seaports here. Shalom was Glasgow.
Oh, I mean, Omaha, when you landed on Omaha.
That's Omaha Beach.
Yeah.
Cherbourg, France, that's where we landed. Oh, you wanted to know that? I thought you meant all the way down to, oh, yeah. Right there, well, they let you off out there in the waterways. Of course, you had to go in. Of course, it was still very, very active around there. They were all up in the, they were up in the cliffs, they're high cliffs. And you had to get over the, you had to scale the cliffs and get up there. Get over, which we did after a while, but of course when you were doing that, you were setting ducks, so to speak. So they could shoot and shoot at you and shoot at you. Lucky if you didn't get hit. But, pardon me, once you got up there, of course, then we kept on going. But there was a lot of, still a lot of fighting and all that going on, very lot. And a lot of hedgerows, and they told us, don't go in the hedgerow, because that's where they put the landmines. They figure you'd go in there, So I had to stay away from them. I stayed cover where you could when things really got hot.
Did you yourself ever get shot at?
Pardon?
Did you yourself ever get shot at? During that time? I mean, during the time of when you landed, did you?
What?
Did you get shot at when you after you landed?
Well, yeah, we got shot at a lot. Yeah.
Were you ever wounded during combat?
Yeah. Shrapnel.
How did that happen?
Pardon? A shell burst. Shell burst.
Where did you get hurt?
This arm here, well, I got a scar there yet. That was one. Of course, there ain't much there anymore. That was bigger than a nickel before.
Did you get a Purple Heart for that?
No. Wasn't serious enough. All it does is clean it up a little bit and put a bandage on it and you're back out.
Once you got into France, did you have a mission or missions there?
Have I?
Once you got in France, what were your missions? What did you do once you got to France?
Well, just keep going, fight on and keep going. So our mission was to go, keep going.
Do you have any stories that happened?
Pardon?
Do you have any stories of fights that happened while you were moving on?
Well, a lot of different, things. A lot of different things happen. It's, but let's see. The worst, the worst one was when we were in the Bastogne there. That's we took shelter in a house, and the things were getting hot, and we went down cellar. And that's when they hit, that was an old stone house, they hit up above and they knocked that fell down the floor. And that's where we stayed. We stayed in there, I don't know, I forget now, probably around 7 to 9 days we stayed in there. Because we couldn't move because the Germans were all around outside, and if we moved, naturally they were going to lob in hand grenades where they could or shell it and get it. And so finally we got out. The British got us out when the British come in. And British got us out. I said, I never thought I'd be glad to see a limey. You guys look good. They called them limeys, Well, they were good fighters. Then we just went on.
What did you do in Luxembourg?
No, we just went through that.
Oh.
We just went through that, yeah.
Did you encounter anything in Holland?
Pardon?
In Holland, did you?
No,
encounter
same thing. Just went through.
Just went through.
Not much at all in Holland, no. We just went through.
Did you ever come across the concentration camp?
Yes.
What was it like?
Oh, well, they were terrible. The way they treated the prisoners and that, and what they did to those people was, unbelievable. You had to see it to believe it, It's really, sticks in your mind. You can always remember and see you can visualize what the people looked like and how they were, and there were so many dead around, Terrible.
Did you serve under General Patton in North Africa?
No, attached to his outfit. I didn't serve directly under him, but he was over, he was over everybody there like that, I didn't serve directly under him, no.
What did you do in Germany?
Was doing Germany? Same thing, kept fighting. Till we got to, well, we were outside of Berlin, but they wouldn't let us go in. Because the Russians had to go in first. They made a deal, see. That deal was made back here in the United States. In Washington. I remember Patton was madder than heck over that deal. Because we stayed outside 3 days, we couldn't go in. Russians had to go in first, so what are you going to do? We couldn't do nothing. Nobody could do nothing.
What was life like during that time?
Well, at that time, there wasn't any more fighting at that time. We were just taking it easy and hang around, which wasn't good because it was, you're always outdoors, in tents and like that,
Did you receive any medals or decorations from service in your country?
Yes. They're on that page. In fact, better yet. Oh, sure. There's right there. There's that's that, and that's what they were for.
Was there ever a time when you thought that you might get captured by the Axis powers?
Oh, quite a few times, yeah, quite a few times. One's outside of Stuttgart, Germany. I thought for sure we were going to get captured that time. We didn't.
What happened?
Well, our tanks started shelling and shelling, and Germans took off. But I thought sure we were going to get captured that time.
What did you do during the Battle of the Bulge?
Fighting. So you just fighting all the time.
Was there any particular events while you were fighting that you can remember?
You what?
Was there any particular events while you were fighting that you can remember that were stand out?
No, not really. Just we want to get moving and keep going.
What was it like to see so many different cultures during the war?
So many different what?
Cultures, like France and Belgium and England.
Gee, I don't know how you would say it. I don't know how you would put it.
Were civilians of the countries glad to see you? Were they
Oh yes.
celebrating?
Yeah, because they've been under they had awful times, The stress must have been tremendous on them,
Right after the war, did you stay and do something in Europe, or did you go right home?
We stayed there about 6 months. Let's see, the war was over. We stayed there. I didn't leave for home until December. We left from Le Havre in December.
What did you do after the war was over?
Went back to work at the manufacturer. Took a couple months off and then went back to work.
It says you were an MP for a while.
Pardon?
It says you were an MP for a while.
Yeah.
Military policeman. What was your job during that time?
Mostly directing traffic. And sometimes transporting prisoners, but mostly directing and laying out the route ahead, Put up signs like that.
As you were going through France, can you remember any particular battles or fights that you want to describe that may have seemed important to you?
Well, yeah, the first one I was really in, it was outside of Peronne, France. And that was we had a bad time there. We got pinned down, but then the artillery and the tanks stung and got us out of there. But that was tough there. And that was one I remember was bad.
Did you lose any friends during that time?
Oh yes, quite a few. Yeah, and that's bad enough for anybody. It's guys that you went in with them together and trained together, and then, you see them get injured or killed in front of you, it makes it bad. But they told us you can't think, you got to keep going. You can't think about that stuff.
Was it easy to adjust from that after the war?
Well, they more or less, Fort Dix, New Jersey, they briefed you like, they say, would you want to would you kill again and all that? I said, well, no, only in self-defense you wouldn't kill again. And you would have no, if a German family moved next to you, you would have no animosity or anything toward them? No, not really. Why? I mean, it wasn't their fault. They didn't want the war any more than anybody else, you know, any more than we did. That's all they did, you know, just make sure we were all right in the head to go back out in the world, you know.
So, after the war, do you know what did you do?
I went back to work at the roll manufacturing company. Yeah. I joined the reserve. I joined the Air Force Reserve. I was in there for 3 years, but only had to go once a month, you know.
You weren't called up for any duty during that time?
No. I got discharged in '48 out of the Air Force Reserve. Probably if I'd have stayed, I'd have probably got called in a Korean, but of course that time I married and had three children at that time, so I thought it was probably time to get out. So.
How many years did you work at roll manufacturing?
44 years.
44 years. And then you started driving bus.
Yeah, I've been driving bus 13 years now for Bernie.
Okay. But you can't think of any other battles that you found interesting? Or you found that you may be able to describe to us?
Well, yeah, we were in, things got bad there. I forgot just what year it was. They took a bunch of us, you know, just took some here and there. They took half of my outfit, and I was in that half, and they took us we went to North Africa. We was only there 3 months. And then, because that was winding down, but they still were having a lot of trouble over there. So it took probably 2,000 or 3,000 extra men over there, all together throughout Europe, and that was tough there. Of course, it's always so warm, hot, dust, and sandstorms would come up, just like snowstorms. Can't see, you know.
Was Rommel still there at that point?
Yeah.
When you were fighting him?
That's why we went there. Yeah. He was a very smart general, and. Montgomery got everybody out of that, the British general, Montgomery, and turned the tide there, and of course then we went back to our own outfits.
After you got back to your own outfit, did you get right back into combat, or was there like a time where you could rest?
Yeah, oh yes, right back into it.
fighting. And you were moving through France?
Pardon?
Or wait, no, okay. Right. And that's when you landed on Normandy, or?
No, that was before.
Okay.
Omaha Beach, I didn't land in Normandy. Omaha Beach I landed on.
You're right, Omaha Beach, I'm sorry.
Near Sherwood.
Oh, okay. Japanese. All right. Is there any other fights that you can think of that you got in?
Major ones?
It doesn't have to be a major fight.
No, just Stuttgart. We ran a lot of trouble there.
What happened?
Well, they were very well fortified around there.
Mm.
You know, it was tough getting through, but they finally, your tanks and big guns got it in so it could get through there. See those the way we call them pillboxes. You know, the way they were. You know, they were rounding it up. A lot of times, even the big shells, if it didn't have really a good hit, it would just ricochet off, more or less, you know. Believe it or not, they did. But they used to use awful good concrete. And of course, that's where all the trouble was. That's where they, only one way to get them, they had to knock them out like that, or you had to jump there and put a hand grenade in there, but your chance of doing that wasn't too good most of the time.
Did you ever have to help destroy a pillbox yourself?
And the what?
Help destroy a pillbox yourself?
I didn't hear you.
Did you ever have to help destroy a pillbox yourself?
No, no. But I wasn't, well, the shell, you know, the tanks and the,
Okay.
you know, big guns did that.
Alright.
No, if you couldn't get right there and throw one in the opening, it's no good, you know. A lot of guys got shot doing that too, you know, killed. Trying to get up there, they pick them off.
Any other experiences that you can think of while you were in the war?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a battle either. It can be whatever you think was interesting.
Oh, after we left the harbor, we had, we were out 3 days, and the rudder, something happened to the rudder, and it took them 2 or 3 days to get it fixed. We just drifted, but other ships come around in case we had to abandon, you know. There were 3 other ships that come and hung around in case we had to abandon ship. That was trying to, till we knew what happened, the ship couldn't do nothing. Couldn't steer, see. So we got it fixed, and then we continued on home. We got home 3 days late.
Anything else?
Pardon?
Any other experiences that you can think of?
Right offhand, I can't. No, I can't think of any other right now.
Okay. Is there anything else that you want to cover for the interview?
No. No, nothing I can think of.
Alright.
Going back to those prisoners that you were transporting, what nationality were they? Were they German soldiers?
Germans, yeah. We take them to the, you know, stockades,
Right.
like that. Yeah.
About how many, like, truckloads?
Oh, they had them with truckloads, you know. Sometimes they went by train, by rail, you know. And they, what they call the 40 and 8 in the boxcars. Of course, we travel that way to ourselves a lot of times.
Were they under constant supervision from
Oh, yeah,
everybody?
prison, oh, yeah.
Anybody ever get out?
Not that I know, not that I know of. But I imagine some did.
Did you have watchdogs in effect too? Or was it
No,
just...
we didn't. We didn't have where I was. But at nighttime was the worst, of course. That's when they try to break out, you know, at nighttime.
Yeah.
About how long did it take to transfer the prisoners all the way?
Well, it depends where you're going. Sometimes it might take a day, sometimes maybe 3 days. I know a couple of times of 3 days, like that. Depends how far you were going with. Let's see, that's about it. What else was on there? Anything else on there that I didn't think about?
When you were in Omaha, when you landed, was there still bodies on the beach that haven't been
Oh.
recovered yet?
All over, terrible, all over. In the water, floating in the water on the beach, up on the cliffs.
Was the ocean still painted red?
Pardon?
Was the ocean still colored red?
Well, when we first got there, and when they're first getting off, you know, you got, a lot of them got moved it and fell in the water, of course, you know, like that, yeah. You know, they're in the canal, and in the shallow, I mean.
How long did it take for you to scale the beachhead and push on into France?
Oh, it took us, well, we landed there about 9 in the morning. We didn't jump on top of there till about, I'd say 1, 2 o'clock because there was so much heavy fire yet.
Did you call in?
And we couldn't move, you know, you had to stay put. But then we got on top and then we moved. Wasn't that bad then once we got on top.
How'd you get around the German machine guns?
Pardon?
How'd you get around the German pillboxes and machine guns?
Well, you got knock them out first.
How'd you do that with artillery?
The tanks and the artillery knocked them out first.
Okay.
Yeah, you weren't going to just walk by. Any other questions?
Did you have any experiences with the French as you were moving through France, not just the enemy?
No, they were just, you know, very nice people. Glad to see you. They would bring out bread. They'd give us fresh bread sometimes. And somebody always had a bottle of wine to hand out. All the countries, I would say, I went through about 7 or 8 of them, all friendly, you know, friendly people.
How did the German people react to you?
Well, they were all right. I never run any difficulty with them. Of course, you weren't that close to them anyway, you know.
Is there anything else that you
Pardon?
Is there any other experiences that you had that you can think of?
No, I can't recall right now of any.
I'm just curious, what rifle were you trained with? Was it the M1?
M1s.
All right.
Then later on we had some carbines, but they're already the short distance, but they're no good to really fight, you know, to shoot with.
Did you ever get your hands on a German weapon or gun?
Yeah. I sent home one German gun. That was made in '44.
How did that compare to your weapons?
Well, theirs were very good. They were very good. Those and their Ruger was a nice gun, but their P-38 was a good gun too. They were smooth. They didn't like we had the 45s, and when you shot them like that, when you shot them, it would make your hand go up. Or those were smooth. Like our Thompson submachine guns at 45, they were rough. You really had to hold that down or you'd shoot in the sky. A lot of power coming. But their guns were smoother. They didn't have all that kick.
Which did you prefer, the higher caliber or the smoother firing?
Pardon?
Which did you prefer, the higher caliber or smoother firing?
Oh, yeah.
Alright. Is there anything else that you want to cover?
Can't think of anything right now. I didn't think of.
Okay.
In France, did you go directly through Paris, or did you go through any other major cities in France at the time, like Vichy?
Oh, I went through a lot of them, went through a lot of them. St. Louis and what's the other one there? Up where the grapes are. Saint Quentin, up that way. Up great wine country up there, through there.
What condition were the cities in?
Oh, some of them were really bad. Some of them wasn't much left at all. Where they had major battles like St. Louis and them, that was just about flattened. And a lot of the other ones were hit hard, a lot of damage in the city themselves.
Did you encounter Germans in those cities?
Oh,
Or
yes,
you just,
some of them, yeah.
do you remember what happened?
No. Nothing specific that time. I went through.
Okay.
Where did you find shelter in
Pardon?
where did you find shelter in France? Did you just stay in like abandoned churches, or did you pitch
Yes.
tents?
You always had a tent with you. And sometimes they had if you were going to hang around a few days and things got, a law in the fighting way, they put up big tents while they sleep, 8, 10, whatever you did in there. But didn't have much shelter, In the winter, you try to find a house to stay in, if you could. Of course, a lot of them are all shot. Wasn't much left of a lot of them either.
You were involved at the Battle of the Bulge, right?
Pardon?
You were involved at the Battle
Oh,
of the
yeah.
Bulge? What happened there? Like, what were you
Well,
trying to
the
take?
Germans wanted to break through, and they brought everybody that they could get up there. That's how they did it. That's what they wanted. They wanted to break through and go back out after everybody. They got stopped there. All the English, French, and Americans, they all brought up a fierce fight there, and that stopped them there.
For you, could you tell when the war was slowing down, like when Nazi Germany was slowing its pace throughout Europe, and it started to lose?
Well, it seemed to be, yes, it seemed to be. Of course, there was a slower pace of life over there, yeah.
Did you ever encounter Soviet allies?
Pardon?
Did you ever encounter Soviet allies?
Yeah, we see them. Yeah. No, they were alright. No, they were. Seemed like regular guys.
Is there anything that happened after the war that
After?
that you found interesting at all?
No. Just glad they're back to work. After being through that.
Like, how about while you were still in Germany, after the Germans had surrendered? Anything?
Did we what?
After the Germans had surrendered,
Yeah.
while you were still in Germany,
Yeah.
anything that you can think of that happened?
No, we were just on occupational duty,
Okay.
So that wasn't bad at all. In fact, I stayed at Darmstadt for a while. From
What's that?
August. till we left what? December 12th. We left to go to Le Havre to come home. We stayed there, occupational duty.
And there was nothing that happened that was uneventful, all occupational?
In there? No, not really. No, not that I encountered, you know. It was like a regular job. You know.
Okay.
Did you celebrate after you found out that Nazi Germany surrendered?
You know what?
After Nazi Germany surrendered, did you celebrate?
Oh, yeah.
You and your squad or
Yeah.
your company?
We celebrated. Glad it was over.
Did the war take longer than you expected, shorter, or you really didn't think about it?
Well, I really didn't think it would go as long as it did, but it did. Of course, they had to get built back up in this country to get the, you know, tanks and ammunition and guns and all that stuff up. And once they got under motion, why, it was, you know, no problem. We didn't run out of anything. That's one thing you got to be thankful for. This country did very good.
So the Germans, while you were fighting them, were running out of some of their supplies?
Yeah, at the end, yeah, they ran out. They ran out of gasoline and everything for their tanks and everything.
Mm-hmm.
They ran out of gasoline in there. Of course, that's the first thing you try to do is cut off all supplies, you know, that you can. And that's,
When you were stationed in Britain, were you ever under attack by like the V-2 rocket?
the what?
The V-2 rocket when you were in Britain? Did you ever have any encounters with those?
Oh, the buzz bombs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy, nobody knew what it was when they first started coming over England. You know, you could hear it, and all of a sudden it hit somewhere.
Did it ever?
That's one thing. If they'd ever got where they could pinpoint them, man, it would have been bad. But of course, he didn't have enough made up. The Germans didn't have enough made up. If they had a lot made up and they could have directed them, we'd have been in trouble. In England, we'd have been in trouble.
Yeah. Did any of them ever hit close to you?
No. Well, I was stationed in Chelmsford, and they hit a Red Cross about 10 miles away. By luck, they hit a Red Cross place, and they were having it was on a Saturday night. They were having a dance, you know, and stuff there. And about 10 or 12 people, our guys and some, you know, women with the Red Cross got killed there. Just by accident, they hit that. The only place I ever heard they hit. You know.
Besides the houses in London? Businesses?
Well, they did that with the bombs, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, some areas of London was really hit bad. I always thought they'd go after the bridge and the clock, but they didn't.
Were some of the cities in France a lot worse than London was, or some about the same?
Well, some of them were
level?
almost completely gone.
Were you ever in Paris before you came back to the United States?
Oh yes, I was there several times.
How was that city?
Well, it's different than any city I'd ever been in. Always alive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just like New York City. It was always alive.
Mm-hmm.
nighttime, and they're always out, you know. Like New York, they say never sleep, so that's the same with them. New York City.
Did anything happen there that you can think of that was interesting at all?
No, only one thing. We were there, and we took a bunch of prisoners up there, and we stayed over. And during the night, we heard a loud bang, and somebody had gone into a theater, rolled a hand grenade in. And they thought it was German. They never did, as far as I know, they never did know for sure, but they thought it was a German. And it killed a few people in there. That was a terrible thing.
While you were moving through Belgium and Holland, and you just moved through, was there any, like, I know you didn't fight the Germans too much through there, you just moved through it, but while you were in there, was there anything that happened?
No, not really. Nothing else. We would keep moving, and the Germans would keep moving ahead of us, trying to keep out of our way. I was glad to see all those countries and go through them, but it was a terrible way to see it.
Mm-hmm.
You did quite an education through something like that.
Mm-hmm. Did you come back and finish school at all, or did you just?
Trade school. I went to trade school for 4 years. Took up electric and plumbing and carpentry work like that.
Alright. There's nothing else you can think of. Do you want to conclude the interview?
No, not really. I think that covered just about all I can recall.
Okay. Alright. Okay. Thanks a lot.